700 billion reasons to bring a message this week. 700 billion reasons. In the USA, they have proposed a rescue plan for the corporations there, save the economy, and it's going to take $700 billion. Now, I'm not sure how they came up with that exact and precise figure of 700 billion. I'm sure a great deal of calculation and mathematics went into it. Apparently, the document that was proposed outlining the plan, the original draft, was 2 or 3 pages long. So a lot of thought obviously has gone into this. One of the startling paragraphs in there is that there would be absolutely no judicial or other department review of how any of the money was dispersed. In other words, it's $700 billion given into the hands of the Treasury to disperse as they see fit. And no court in the USA could question or review any of their subsequent actions. That's a huge blank check. I think my mortgage document's longer than 3 pages, and I can assure you I don't have a $700 billion mortgage. You wonder where the number comes from. Maybe they just like that number. You know, maybe 700 billion is a number of completeness. You know, it's a number that will completely solve all the problems of the economy. I'm hearing that and reading that they will pay market value or higher than market value for some of these securities that they would purchase, because these corporations wouldn't want to sell them at the current market value because the current market value is down. So to encourage these corporations to sell, they would pay them higher than market value. So the American taxpayer would be buying product at higher than market value, and then they'd be paying that off with post-tax dollars for a long time. They don't move quickly, hastily, and do something immediately. People's jobs, people's bank accounts, people's life savings, people's retirement plans, people's homes are all at risk. So there's a lot of fear being added to the mix. How did they get themselves into the situation? It was only a month ago that the president was on the air saying that, you know, the system's working and that, you know, the American economy is vibrant and strong and that they have all the checks and balances. And all of a sudden, now it's a crisis and it has to be resolved within the next couple of days. That's when companies more than 100 years old going bankrupt. You've got to ask yourself, as a CEO of a 100-plus-year-old company, how could you allow your company to buy those kind of stocks and securities? Don't they do their due diligence? Don't they know what they're purchasing? Mortgage companies were going out to the public and they were offering them subprime mortgages. Subprime, they're saying you can buy this house and we'll give you a mortgage at lower than prime for 2 years, 3 years. But then after 2, 3 years they would balloon and go crazy. And these mortgages would go up several $100s a month. Now, you know that day is coming. You've got to pay the piper. If somebody can just scrape by at subprime rates, has their rates put up several $100s, how are they going to pay those mortgages? Those mortgages have to go into default. What I don't get is, instead of trying to bail out all these companies, why don't they just pass legislation? Why didn't they do it a year and a half ago and say, no more balloon mortgages, from now on everybody has to go back to prime, or if you're a high risk, prime plus. You know, and help people get back in shape so they can make their payments. When you operate a country contrary to God's laws, you're going to bring problems upon yourself. And I can't even touch on all the things that go on in America today that are bringing desolation on the land. I'll touch just on the economic factors only. God had a plan for mankind. Every person inherited the land that they lived on. In other words, they were entitled to a place to live, to grow crops, to raise sheep and cattle, and bring up their family. And these inheritances were passed on from generation to generation. We have a time when the Israelites were living in Egypt, and after 400 years of sojourning there, they had become slaves. They were solely dependent on that state of Egypt, the Pharaoh himself and all his government ministry. It means that they were subjected to incredible conditions, working under tyranny, making bricks even without straw, under the hot midday sun, dying from beatings and starvation. They were in bondage. They were in slavery in Egypt. And God heard their murmuring, their crying, as they rose to heaven, and He sent them a Savior. He sent them Moses, and Moses led them out of Egypt. God's slavery is a despicable thing. Or any form of slavery, anything that puts people in bondage, is contrary to God's plan of inheriting this earth. We are meant to inherit this earth. He tells us in Exodus chapter 22 and verse 25, "If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury." Usury is a biblical term for interest. Thou shalt not charge poor people interest on money that you loan them to help them. Usury is an abomination before the Lord, because they're taking a person that's in a bad situation. Let's say somebody owns a farm and there's a terrible drought one year and their crops fail, or a disease comes and their cattle die, and they lose their complete herd or their complete crop. They need help. They need help. What kind of help could they have? Well, somebody could come in, successful business person, joining farm to farm to farm, and could say, "I'll help you, but it's going to cost you 20% a year." How does that poor person, who was never poor to begin with but went through this unfortunate situation, how does that person ever get out of that situation again? They can't. It's almost impossible. It's designed to consume any recovery and just keep them working forever for that rich person. It's a system of bondage. It's a system of usury. Using people. It seems perfectly legal today. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 35, "And if any brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him, or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase."